Thanks, Claire. I think this session is called Paddock to Port, but I'm renaming it to Making Oats Sexy because I think Ash, Nat and I are all talking about oats. Kind of. So oats are considered the poor cousin to wheat, barley and canola traditionally, but over the past couple of seasons we've seen really strong prices. We've got new varieties with improved genetics, more knowledge around agronomic practices such as early sowing and deep sowing, all of which have really shifted oats from a traditional feed product to a high-value food product. Investment into the oat industry has also significantly increased over the past couple of years. We're doing a lot of work within the Australian grain industry to develop new and innovative ways to grow and use oats. So through my Nuffield, I have aimed to understand global trends, specifically what our competitors are doing, what are some of the risks that we need to be aware of, and what are some of the opportunities to further develop the Australian oat industry and develop our markets. I'm going to go over a couple of the countries that I visited. So I visited 9 countries over the past couple of years. I met with many farmers, oat processors and research institutions. This is a snapshot of some of the oat producing countries that I visited. Canada is a global oat producer, mostly exporting into the US. About 85% of their oats go straight over the border into the US. Their breeding is very targeted towards agronomy rather than application and product use. They have a very strong gluten-free market, and the recent tariffs from the US could be very impactful to their industry. There's a lot of unknowns right now, but my take on it is that the tariffs are really going to push the US to diversify their markets, particularly into China, where currently there are non-tariff barriers stopping Canadian oats going into China. The UK are experiencing a really similar boom to us here in Australia. They've got some new processors entering the market, almost flooding the market. And there's a huge push for sustainability in the UK with subsidies and different schemes, which will definitely have a big impact on the grains industry in the UK. Scandinavia, I visited Sweden and Denmark. There's a big focus on functionality for beverages, bread, bakery items and protein products within their breeding within Sweden and Denmark. And there's also a big changing movement of protein sources away from meat protein to plant protein, and oats are very much considered in that discussion as well as legumes. And Chile, unfortunately I didn't get to visit Chile, but I did speak to some representatives from the industry. There is huge growth in processing capacity in Chile. They were the world's second leading exporter in 2023, and they have a lot of modern milling technology. They're mostly supplying oats within Latin America, but their exports are definitely increasing elsewhere. So this is definitely a country to watch out for. Their growth is happening quite rapidly. Australian oats. A key takeaway for me from my travel and my research was some of the positive feedback that I got around the Australian oat industry, particularly around market development work through organisations like the Australian Export Grains Innovation Centre, or AGIC, Grains Australia and some of the breeding companies. I received this feedback multiple times from particularly our oat competitors who expressed envy around the work that AGIC does in providing technical expertise around Australian grains, strengthening our relationships with international customers and translating market needs back into the Australian supply chain. With the looming threat of Russian, Canadian and Chilean oats into our key markets, I think the work that the AGIC are doing is more important than ever. Sustainable farming systems. I had a lot of conversations about sustainability, as I'm sure most of my cohort did. It's a huge topic. One of the key takeaways from me is how inherently sustainable Australian farming systems are. We obviously farm in one of the harshest climates in the world, and we're extremely innovative farmers because of this. We have a real opportunity to use this to our strength, and playing on a theme that's come up a lot over the past few days is tell our story more effectively. And research and development and value capture. This came up repeatedly in pretty much every country that I visited, is how unique and beneficial our value capture system is, particularly around our endpoint royalty system within breeding and our levy structure back into GRDC and the work that we can do through that. Some of the opportunities that I've identified through my research and that I've included in my report, you'll have to read it to get all 25 of them. There's just a couple here. Protein. Protein claims are rapidly increasing. I'm seeing this myself in the supermarket. Oats contain a higher level of protein than other cereals like wheat and barley. They have better functional properties with potential for beverages, yogurt, meat alternatives, and high protein baked goods. So this could really potentially be a really good consideration for Australian oats to be included in this discussion, and just gives us some more opportunity to get oats into more food products. Strong market signals and relationships. Oats are often very vulnerable to price volatility and supply fluctuations, and unlike wheat and barley, they require a relationship-driven approach, as we are frequently engaging directly with processors and buyers rather than grain traders, making trust and flexibility essential. In Scotland, I observed processors offering incentives such as loyalty bonuses to growers who supplied them consistently over years. That recognition was really valued by farmers. Locally here in Australia, there are processors discussing multi-year contracts, contracting hectares rather than tonnes, and increasing storage payments, which could really reduce the risk for both parties and give growers more confidence to put more oats in the ground. Stronger, more consistent returns and rewards for quality grain through long-term partnerships isn't just beneficial for us as growers, but it's a win for the processors and buyers too. And equally as important are our relationships with our overseas customers, particularly in WA, where exports dominate our oat market. We've built very strong international ties, and we must remain really proactive, listening, engaging, and adapting to meet evolving customer needs across both product and supply chain needs. By investing in relationships at every level, from paddock to port, we can create a more stable, responsive, and profitable industry. And lastly, gluten-free. Gluten-free, I looked at the gluten-free industries in a couple of different countries, and I think there's a really great opportunity for gluten-free markets domestically, and also to grow our international exports as well. Despite the rising global demand for gluten-free products, oats in Australia face a major regulatory hurdle. They actually can't be marketed as gluten-free. Food Safety Australia and New Zealand, FSANZ, does not currently regulate this category, leaving consumers, particularly those with celiac disease, uncertain about the product safety of oats. Even though oats are naturally gluten-free, they do contain a protein called avenin that has a small percentage of celiacs react to. But research actually shows that 90% of celiacs can safely consume oats if they're uncontaminated and processed correctly. We do have a couple of products on the market in Australia that are wheat and barley-free oats. However, the unclear labelling can be confusing. So with clear labelling and robust regulation, Australia could unlock a strong domestic market for certified gluten-free oats. On our own farm, implementing a gluten-free system is very achievable. With some of the protocols that I observed in Canada, such as machinery clean-downs, crop isolation, and dedicated crop oat and break crop rotations, which actually mirrors our existing practices to produce pure seed crops, which we do most years. I've also spoken to most of our processors here in Australia who have said they have the capability to sort gluten-free oats using optical technology. So Australia has the infrastructure and the expertise to grow this market, both locally and internationally. But to compete, we really need legislation and regulations to be updated to align with global standards to open this market up to us. So to summarise, oats have rapidly evolved from a feed grain to a high-value food product. And even as someone said to me on Monday night, a grower from Western Australia, they're considered a superfood. And Australia is leading this space. Visiting 9 countries, I observed different approaches. Canada's gluten-free market, the UK's focus on sustainability, Scandinavia innovating with oat-based products and beverages, and Chile expanding processing and exports. Feedback from global stakeholders highlighted our strengths here in Australia, particularly our market development efforts. And key opportunities I've identified include oats included in the protein discussion and removing regulatory barriers, preventing oats from being marketed as gluten-free. Of course, risks loom. We've got competition from Russia, big competition from Russia, Canada and Chile, and to stay competitive, we must continue to engage and maintain strong relationships and provide high quality, consistent, and of course, reasonably priced oats to our customers. And back to the theme, oats are sexy again. I don't think they're the poor cousin anymore, and I might be biased. But over the past couple of years, I've seen dedicated oat field days absolutely packed. Our new oat varieties at InterGrain are selling like hotcakes. And everyone is just really keen and excited about oats, and then maybe that's just me that they're talking to about oats because I'm obsessed with oats, I don't know, but I'm very happy to say oats are sexy again. And so, thank you. I had a lot of imposter syndrome, which has been said a lot over the past couple of days coming into this experience, and took me a lot to build up to apply for a Nuffield, and I'm so glad that I did because the past couple of years have been really transformative to me. And yeah, huge thank you to my sponsor, GIWA and the Processed Oat Partnership for putting money into not just science and research, but investing in people. I think that's really important. Of course, to Nuffield Australia for the experience and believing in me and our 2024 cohort and my GFP group. Such an amazing group of people, and I've made some lifelong friends out of it. My family and friends and their team at InterGrain for supporting me over the past couple of years and putting up with me being a pretty distant and distracted friend and employee and colleague. And my husband, Alex. I don't think I'm going to say any more because then I might cry. But thank you for your support.